That bold campaign to keep a question off the ballot, apparently it worked. Joining us on Columbus on the Record this week, Jackie Borchert, Columbus Bureau Chief for the Cincinnati Enquirer, Andy Chow, State House reporter for Ohio Public Radio, Dale Butland, Democratic strategist, and Mark Weaver, Republican strategist. There is still a chance the Ohio Supreme Court could revive it, but as of right now, the effort to repeal Ohio's energy bailout law is over. This week, the group trying to put a repeal on the ballot came up short on the number of signatures it needed. So short, it did not bother to file them. Instead, it asked a federal judge to give it more time, claiming bureaucratic delays and opponents' harassing campaign tactics kept it from meeting the goal. The judge said no and kicked it over to the state's highest court. So in the end, the campaign that featured misleading ads, petition blockers, and unofficial petitions appears to have won. Andy Chow, let's start with the campaign itself. The group came up way short. What were their reasons? It came up really short.
40,000 signatures short, and that's not
below the minimum level.
Below the minimum level, and we know that not all of those would have been valid anyway, so they would have had to go out and get more. They blamed it on the procedure. In Ohio, you have 90 days to hold a referendum on a law, but in Ohio law, it requires you to get your petition summary language approved by the Ohio Attorney General. It took about I want to say 38 days for their final petition language to get approved. So they said instead of 90 days, they had 52 days to circulate the petition. And they said that just wasn't enough. And the company that the group hired to circulate the petitions said that they were expecting to have about 75 days. And so to cut it down to 52 days just wasn't enough for them.
Any chance the Ohio Supreme Court, Jackie, gives them more time? Or is it seen as a long shot at this point?
I mean, it's a long shot, but it's not completely ruled out. I think, when the Ohio Supreme Court has reviewed petition type questions before, they tend to sometimes side on the side of the petitioners, recognizing that it is an effort, a citizen effort protected in the Ohio Constitution for direct democracy. But it's, I would say, pretty slim.
Mark, was this burden too high to meet 266 some odd thousand signatures? You really have to collect 500,000 because of the mistakes or the unvalid signature rate. 90 days, the clock doesn't start ticking until the AG gets everything signed off on. Is that too high a burden?
I've advised probably a dozen statewide ballot campaigns over the years, and one thing is clear when you look at the trend line, it's gotten more difficult to get something on the ballot by the statewide initiative process, whether it's because the high amount of signatures, which is tied to the last governor's race, or the difficulty of getting petitioners to come in and do this, and now this new wrinkle, which is sort of guerrilla warfare for on the streets, for those people minding their own business, walking to the zoo or walking to a movie, they're being jostled by both sides. This only makes it more difficult for any issue to get on the ballot.
What do you think of this guerrilla warfare, Dale?
Well, I think it's G-O-R rather than G-U-E-R. These are King Kong tactics that have been employed by the pro-HB6 side. And whether you believe that the people trying to stop this law deserve more time to get signatures or not, I hope we can all agree that the kind of tactics employed by the people wanting to keep the law have been shameful. Like Mark, I've been involved in a lot of ballot campaigns over the last 35 years. I have seen nothing even remotely close to the kind of thuggish behavior that went on in this campaign. And surely this is not what the founding fathers of Ohio had in mind when they put the citizen veto into our Constitution. Maybe it's time for the legislature now to do something to set some rules so that future ballot campaigns don't all start looking like mixed martial arts events.
Did the federal judge at all talk about these tactics, and did they have a complaint, a legitimate complaint, the folks who wanted the repeal?
So basically the ruling came down to an acknowledgement that these are tactics that are unseemly, that probably shouldn't be happening because in several ways it's sort of impeding the democratic process, but there was no legal standing from those tactics to be used to argue for more time. So it kind of came down to this, the narrative is, yes, a lot of people agree that those tactics are not good, but there was no legal standing for it.
Well, the player who can make a difference here is the Attorney General, who has the ability to investigate these individual complaints. There were a couple dozen complaints filed with the Attorney General. Yeah. So Dave Yost has that ability on both sides. Well, the federal court essentially punted to the Supreme Court, which does not have to do anything with it. The AG could do something here.
The other issue here is that we're talking about the Ohio Constitution, where the Ohio Constitution allows for 90 days in a referendum. So I think part of the federal judge's ruling was that this is more of a jurisdiction for the Ohio Supreme Court.
It is an interesting argument they're making that, it says 90 days, and because they had to go through some hoops and they, their initial language was rejected, so that added about a little over a week onto the schedule. But just a few years ago, the state legislature, in an attempt to standardize things, did reduce the amount of time that these types of campaigns have to get additional signatures if they fall short. So it used to be that it was whatever, you could keep collecting signatures while they were being counted. And then a bill changed that so that you had to stop counting, you had to stop collecting, and then once you got your tally back, then you only had 10 days. And the argument there was to standardize it. So it's a similar thing, but I don't know if the legislature, they voted for this bill. I don't know that there's an incentive there to change that.
If anything, the trend in the legislature is to make it harder to put a referendum on the ballot, not easier.
Well, and it's probably a feature, not a bug, because it needs to be a lot of people angry about what the elected officials, representatives did. You need to have a lot of people angry about it in order to put on the ballot something against the General Assembly.
Is that part of the problem, Dale? It was big news here in the Columbus area, big news, perhaps up in Cleveland, where in the northern part of the state where these nuke plants are, but in southern Ohio, do people really care, about this that much?
Well, I think they ultimately would have cared had this made the ballot, which is why these tactics were used, because I think that the pro-HB6 side realized if this ever got to the ballot, they were going to lose. And so they tried to keep it off. And I think it's important. We're talking about process a lot here, but I think it's important to keep our eyes sort of on the substance too, because now Ohio has been abandoning, as a result of HB6, which is now going to be law, we will be abandoning both energy conservation and the renewable growth energy industries of the future. And I think it is fair to say that a lot of people are concerned that Ohio is going to start slipping further and further behind a lot of more forward-looking states.
Getting back to the tactics of this campaign, you said you hope that people don't do it again, but it worked. And when things work in politics, flattery is the best, and imitation is the best form of flattery in politics. People are going to do this again, Mark, right?
Well, and necessity is the mother of invention. In this case, they needed to keep this issue from going to the ballot. And so Dale is right. We've never seen tactics like this from either side. Frankly, both sides I'm kind of agnostic on the issue. Both sides were over the top with crazy tactics, and that is now the floor, not the ceiling. And so we would expect to see these things, unless someone like A.G. Yost or a court steps in and takes some action. I think we'll see more of this.
I think another indicator that might be interesting, especially as we go into 2020, is sort of the focus on fear-mongering, where the rhetoric and the narrative really focused on something to scare people into not signing something, and in which case maybe not to vote for something, and sort of this unapologetic approach to that, and I wonder if that might be a trend that we see further on in other campaigns.
How do you regulate that, Jackie? It's the First Amendment. In political speech, right, you can say outright falsehoods,
exactly.
and it's protected.
And Ohio had a law banning that, and it was struck down by the Supreme Court. And so, and in that decision, the justices said that the best way to combat false information is with truth. But when you've got $16 million in false information, you're going to need some money to combat that as well. And it works the other way too. It's just kind of a free-for-all. And that's something that as journalists we try to sift through and help people understand what's going on. But it's a lot to stay on top of.
And the most important player are the voters. That is the key check on all government power, is the ability of the voters to find out what's true and hold people accountable.
Transparency of donors. These were dark money groups, didn't have to disclose who their donors were. We suspect natural gas was behind the repeal effort. We suspect First Energy Solutions and their supporters funded the Keep It Off the Ballot movement. We don't know for sure, though.
And that's the problem. When you have this kind of dark money that comes into politics as a result of a recent Supreme Court decision, relatively recent, that's the problem. It's hard for voters to hold people accountable if they don't know where the money's coming from or who's paying for these things. I would say, Mike, that in answer to your previous point, yeah, there's probably not much you can do about misleading ads that are on TV because there is a First Amendment issue there. So you can say ridiculous things like China is going to take over here if this thing passes. But certainly you can do something about the intimidation efforts that were directed at the petition gatherers from the from one side. You can
Petition blockers.
you can certainly do something about the physical assaults that occurred, and I don't know whether it's legal or not to do this kind of brazen buying off of the petitioner of the petition gatherers. Maybe it is legal.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know.
free market, I guess.
But
Again, this is where Yost could come in and make a statement that would send a clear message to future organizers that there could be somebody who's watching out for their problems.
But without a change in state law, would that statement mean anything?
Well, the question is, he'd have to use state law to bring a complaint. He doesn't just get to decide. He'd have to take it to a court, so we would have a court ruling in.
And it can be a crime if they're physically buying the signatures that have been collected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you need a petition gatherer buffer zone, like a little
You're
2
not,
like
the,
we-
you're not the first person to mention
2 foot
that.
radius.
We have that at the ballot box where you have to stay a certain
100 feet away from the polls, yeah.
They have it in exotic dancing clubs too. You remember that, the tape measure with the Dancers for Democracy?
that's right.
One of the little those things. Transfer the law over to there. Anyway, the Democratic field for president continues to solidify around 5 leading candidates. Elizabeth Warren and Joe Biden are at the top. Then comes Bernie Sanders and Pete Buttigieg and Kamala Harris. The rest of the field is below 3%. This week, Ohio's Tim Ryan called it quits. The Youngstown area congressman never caught fire, but he claims success.
We've given voice to the forgotten communities and the forgotten people in the United States. And while it didn't work out quite the way we planned, this voice will not be stifled. I will continue to advocate and fight for the working people of this country.
Dale Butler, Tim Ryan was always a long shot. Winning the nomination was not likely, even in his mind, you have to think. So did he meet the goals of this campaign for himself, do you think?
Probably not, but look, I don't think any of us should be too hard on Tim. He's a young guy, nice-looking guy, articulate guy who's from Ohio, who wins in blue-collar strongholds of the Mahoning Valley, and he probably underestimated how difficult it is for a sitting member of the House of Representatives to be elected president, just like John Kasich did the first time he ran when he was in the House. The last time we had a president who was a sitting House member was Garfield. It's very hard to do. So he forgot that. He thought, but maybe, look, maybe lightning will strike. Maybe I'll catch fire. I can mimic Sherrod Brown's dignity of work message. It didn't work out for him. So now he's going to go back and run for his old job, just like every other candidate from both parties do when they run for president and they lose.
Well, we all knew that Tim Ryan was really running for Secretary of Labor, not for president. He had no real hope of it. However, I will say this. By going on that stage and saying the crazy anti-Trump stuff that he said with the rest of the folks up there, he has put himself squarely at odds with his constituency in his current district, which is a heavily Democrat district, but it's a strong Trump area. He will have difficulty. I won't predict a loss. He will have difficulty next year if there's a strong candidate against him. He left the home fires not burning while he was out running around Iowa. That will create political problems for him.
Senate, you talk about Senate run against Rob Portman, setting himself up for a statewide run, either for the Senate seat or for a statewide office in 2022, I guess.
Not unless it's in an odd numbered year. He always says he wants to run for something, but it's always the year he has to file for Congress, right? Tulsi Gabbard at least had said, I'm not going to run for Congress, I'm going to run for president. She made a choice. He's trying to have his cake and eat it too. So unless a Senate race comes up in an odd numbered year, which allows him to run from cover, which he won't.
Or there's rumors he might lose his district or have his district redistricted.
I think, running for president, I think we talked several months ago when he announced his run here at this table that, goal number one was probably to raise his profile nationally for some sort of cabinet position should a Democrat win in 2020. I don't know that it raised his profile in Ohio. I know that, our readers in Cincinnati were not really interested in his campaign. And it just never seemed to, he wasn't even on the debate stage in
Ohio.
Ohio.
He never got above 1% in
he just couldn't,
polls.
right.
Yeah.
So as far as running for a statewide office, I don't know that it helped his case.
Other candidates, there's been a couple of stories this week. New York Times had one that the, quote, establishment Democrats are worried about the current field, and they've been making calls to Sherrod Brown, to Michael Bloomberg, John Kerry, even Hillary Clinton's name got in there. Is the field set? Dale, are we going to get one of these folks to come in last minute and save the party?
Yeah, well, it's not shocking to me that we'd have Democrats wringing their hands. Our party is full of nervous Nellies, always has been, and probably always will be. Look, let's take a breath for a moment. First off, I'm not convinced that the person who's been the front runner thus far, Joe Biden, is done. In 7 of the 8 polls that have been released since the last debate, Biden has been leading them. Now, it's true that he's been fading some. Warren has been rising. It's probably true that Warren is maybe the front runner now in the minds of a lot of people, but she and Bernie Sanders have some problems, not least of which is the fear among a lot of Democrats that they may be too liberal to win a general election, specifically on the Medicare for All issue. That's one of the major ones. So if Biden continues to fade, I have no doubt in my mind that somebody, or maybe 2 people, will rise to fill that moderate lane. Right now, your best bets, I think, would be Mayor Pete or maybe Senator Klobuchar of Minnesota, both of whom had good debates in Ohio and are now rising some in the polls. But somebody's going to fill that moderate lane.
Democrats, Republicans, Mark, were worried this time 4 years ago when Donald Trump was starting to really gain steam and take over, that somebody else should jump into the race. So this is not a Democratic-only
Yeah,
worry.
both parties have their problems with their base and with trying to pick somebody who'd be suitable for a general election. I think the Democrats ought to look at Michael Dukakis. Is he still alive?
Yes, he is. He's still riding the subway in
Michael
Boston.
Dukakis might be. Listen, here's the problem with Joe Biden. I love Jaromir Jagr, who's this great hockey player, has been playing for 40 years. But when he gets out on the ice, you look at him because you know him, but all the other players are going right past him and checking him into the boards. That's Joe Biden. We know who he is. He's old, reliable. He's being outpaced by the field. He will probably not make it to South Carolina.
But he's also kind of floating under the radar. I mean, in the last debate, he was not the main target. Elizabeth Warren was the main target. And so we saw that, like Dale said, some of his poll numbers are kind of holding steady.
And in poll after poll after poll, including in the major battleground states, he's beating Trump like a drum. So he may be the guy who's into the boards, but where's Trump? He's losing to Biden in those important states.
I think this idea of like a dark horse late entry is, I don't know which Democrats they talk to, but all the Democrats that I talked to standing outside the debate in Westerville, they like this field. They like that they've got options. They like that they have Joe Biden up there with Bernie Sanders. I mean, they like the debates that they're, the discussions that they're having, that they have a little bit difference in their proposals. So I don't see it happening.
Dale, if Elizabeth Warren gets the nomination, doesn't she moderate her stance on Medicare for all and maybe goes back to what other folks are saying is Medicare for all who want it, and we're not going to do away with private insurance, at least not for a long time? Can she moderate her stance once she gets through the convention, if she was the nominee?
Well, I don't know. I mean, because she's taken that position, she and Bernie have taken that position, that is, I think, explains a lot of the passionate support she has. If she begins backtracking on that, I think she runs the risk of losing some of that support. But look, I've been in politics a long time. You don't start a campaign by telling 130 million Americans what you're going to take away from them. That's what she's doing with this Medicare for All, to say nothing of the fact that it costs $30 trillion over 10 years.
And Republicans would be sure to remind voters if she does change her
There's all
mind.
sorts of clips of her saying these things, but also refusing to say what the tax cost is. And so, although there's rumors that she's going to come out and finally admit it'll be a middle-class tax increase.
All right. Attorneys in Northeast Ohio this week settled a big opioid lawsuit just before it was set to go to trial. Dublin-based Cardinal Health and 4 other drug companies agreed to pay Summit and Cuyahoga counties $260 million for costs associated with the opioid crisis. There are some 2,600 cases still out there, and some legal experts and attorneys say this settlement could play a role in determining a price for a nationwide settlement. As those negotiations happen, state and local officials are trying to come up with a fair way to distribute and spend the money. Jackie Borchert, is there thinking that the other settlements now are going to come quickly after this one? What's the impact of this
I
settlement?
think that's the hope. The trials in Northeast Ohio were supposed to be bellwether trials. They were supposed to kind of set an example for the other 2,300 cases. And so by coming to a settlement just hours before the trial was going to begin, I think that kind of sent a flag up that this is going to go the settlement route rather than the trial route. And then also, of course, this week, there are some states' attorney generals and drug companies involved in this suit. We're talking about a $48 billion kind of master settlement, like in the vein of the tobacco master settlement, and that involves some cash over like 18 years. And then the rest in treatment services. But Ohio and other states came out and said that's not, we're not really with that plan right now. And there's concern that stretching any sort of big settlement out over decades, like what happened with tobacco, ignores the fact that these states need help and assistance now for the addiction problems.
Governor DeWine held a meeting at the governor's mansion this week. Some local officials, state officials trying to figure out, first, should they come together and fight as one? And then if they win, how do they distribute the money and how should it be spent?
Yeah, so I think on the first part, I think they're okay with everybody coming together and fighting as one, but the local governments are really adamant on making sure that the money comes to them and that they can distribute it the way they want to, because as they say, they're the ones who are fighting this on the front lines, the opioid epidemic. And there is a concern, like Jackie raised about the tobacco settlement, that if the money ends up with the state, that it could be appropriated in a way that that doesn't help local governments. One of the biggest concern is putting it more towards education in the front end of it instead of on the back end and going towards treatment.
Well, and a big difference here, first of all, full disclosure, I'm a partner in a law firm that represents the state in this lawsuit, not my case, one of my partners. But when I was Deputy Attorney General, I did work on the tobacco lawsuit. In that case, it was just the states that were suing the tobacco. And so it was only 50 states, if you will. We never got to 50, kind of fighting over it. Now we have hundreds, thousands of municipalities and counties who are fighting over it, all of whom are represented by plaintiffs' lawyers who want a large piece of the action. It makes it a much more complex puzzle than we saw with the tobacco lawsuit. And then these questions of where the money gets spent will continue to vex people.
People are worried the same thing will happen with tobacco, the money, it'll get spent on other things. Is there anything that you all could have done differently with the tobacco settlement that would have prevented some of that?
Well, on behalf of the Attorney General's office, we negotiated that settlement into Ohio to get all that money, but the General Assembly chose to reallocate the money, and they are the elected lawmakers for the state. They got to make that call. So they're the ones who would be accountable for that. I don't know how you can bind a General Assembly.
You couldn't put it in the settlement.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make 2 points. First is that given, as Mark says, there are literally thousands of counties, cities, and so forth around, so this is going to drag on for a long time. So that's why you can't criticize Cuyahoga County and Summit County for cutting the deal they did. Not only does it get them out of the uncertainty of a trial, because you never know what's going to happen when you take them to trial, but the other part is they get $215 million to spend right now on the treatment that they need. The other point I wanted to make was this. Monetary settlements aside, given the fact that the opioid crisis has killed 400,000 Americans, that's 8 times more than the Vietnam War, and Ohio is the second highest number of people killed, given that, and given the fact that Purdue Pharma, which a lot of people thought is the grandfather of this thing, and the Sackler family that runs that have been playing these games with the bankruptcy thing, so they'll be able to walk away with billions of dollars. I think a lot of people are not going to be satisfied unless some drug company executives go to jail.
All right. Let's get to our final topic quickly. Victims of sexual abuse by an OSU team doctor continue to call on Ohio state lawmakers to change state law so anyone who knew of the abuse can be held responsible. The abuse by Dr. Richard Strauss occurred more than 20 years ago. An independent investigation identified at least 177 victims and some 1,500 incidents of abuse. Many of those victims wrote an op-ed in the Plain Dealer this week calling for an extension of the state's statute of limitations laws to cover the abuse that occurred decades ago. Strauss died by suicide in 2005. The university has called Strauss's actions reprehensible and says it is committed to appropriately addressing the abuse. Mark Weaver, this is tricky because the statute of limitations are to protect the process because it's been so long since the crime occurred. Is it warranted to extend them in this case, do you think?
Well, I prosecuted a lot of cases as a prosecutor, and the first thing you look at is how old is this case, and can I produce witnesses and evidence that will convince a jury today about what happened years ago? And so even if the General Assembly were to move back these statute of limitations, lawyers would still have to bring forth the evidence to prove not that the dead guy is the one who owes the money, because I doubt his estate has any money. It's whether Ohio State should be. This becomes a policy decision for the General Assembly. It could be a very expensive policy decision to make. I think you'll see a lot more people clamoring for the General Assembly to move the statute of limitations back.
Any movement at the State House on this, or are they hoping there's a settlement first?
Well, we've seen a lot of hearings on this, about 5 hearings so far on the bill, and there has been a lot of support. It's a Republican-sponsored bill, so this has bipartisan support, but it's kind of stalled at this point. It hasn't had a hearing in a couple of weeks, so I'm not sure where it's going to be right now. But it's important to remember this is a bill that's specifically tailored to this very instance. It wouldn't just expand statute of limitations for everything.
All right, we get to our final off-the-record parting shots. Mark Weaver up first.
When I talk to other political consultants, they're wondering what the turnout will be next year for the presidential election. And the key question will be, does the African American vote turn out the way it did in many years past? Joe Biden has been strong with African Americans. If he stays in the race, it probably does. If he gets out, it might not.
Dale.
The House will impeach President Trump before the end of the year, and even though the Republican-controlled Senate will not remove him from office, the public already knows that the president abused the power of his office and broke the law by asking the president of Ukraine to interfere in our 2020 election by digging up dirt on his opponent, and I believe that is going to hurt the president badly in his re-election campaign.
Andy.
The long saga of HB6 seems to be coming to a close, but I think it's important to start looking at the future of Ohio energy under these new laws, especially when it comes to new renewable energy growth.
Jackie.
Ohio set rules for the medical marijuana program to prevent businesses from just turning around and selling their licenses before they got approval, and an Enquirer investigation we published this week shows that that happened anyway. So you should go to Cincinnati.com and read it.
Very good story. Check it out. I again use my off-the-record comment to plead for cameras in federal courts. Why they are not allowed to cover proceedings crucial to the nation and its citizens remains a mystery. So what are we left with is this. Andy Chau's artistic work. He drew this sketch and tweeted it this week as he covered the energy bailout hearing. That's the distinguished federal jurist Edmund Sargas there behind the bench, a very good likeness. It's the only visual record we have of what could mark the end of a campaign over a law that is worth $1 billion. I didn't get the hair right. No offense, Andy.
Career in kindergarten art coming up, Andy.
No offense, but we need cameras in there. That's Columbus on the Record for this week. Check us out online, Twitter, Facebook, and WOSU.org. For our crew and for our panel, I'm Mike Thompson. Have a good week.